Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and I'm sort of back. I've been sick for the last couple days, and I'm feeling good enough today that I'm going to make a video. But unfortunately, tomorrow I am bound to go on a trip for the weekend. I'm going on a rally race. I'm taking my old 1992 Mitsubishi Evolution and going to try to not crash it for 2 days as I drive through some BC side roads rather quickly. Anyways, today we have a video courtesy of Seveah in his Tier 8 American battleship, the North Carolina. And I've praised this ship before. I really did love this ship when I got to it. I still do. And it's just all around the first time that the American ships really feel capable of doing pretty much everything the Japanese have been able to do, at least as far as ranged battle goes. Because up until the North Carolina, to have any chance at fighting at range, you've got to use the appropriate modifications to boost your main gun range. But on the North Carolina, finally you have a ship where just naturally she's got good range. She also has some very good armor, though different from her predecessors, whereas the previous American battleships like the New Mexico and Colorado were very tough shells to crack. They would take routine damage. It's kind of that all or nothing. You're not getting in the Citadel, but you're going to do damage elsewhere. Whereas the North Carolina starts to change that a little, and if you give the side of this ship to the enemy, they're going to hit your Citadels. But nose on, she is an absolute beast to contend with. You'll also notice Seveah is playing in a division with Flying Goomba, who is also driving his North Carolina, and they've got a good matchup here on Trap in domination mode. And things seem a little odd in this replay, and I can't tell if it's just some weird capture mechanics. I've said it a couple times. World of Warships are working on it, from what I've read, reading forums and stuff, but a full replay mode really is needed, because I've had other videos that I go to launch and are just completely glitched, and one or two of them have been videos sent in from you guys, which I hate, because you go to work, you share it with me, and then when I go to load it, like, the timer never starts, none of the sounds work, and I'm stuck with the countdown clock, and I'll try loading it 5 or 6 times, and it just doesn't seem to work. And once in a while, this one also seems to be just a little off. But it's more than viewable, and at least everything's moving and guns are firing. So off the bat, you can see Seveah, Goomba, and the group of ships they spawned with go for A. And it's a move I like, you just have to make it count, and what is hurting them is this Farragut. The Farragut laid smoke, great move, but is then sitting in it. All the Farragut has to do is drive out here, get out onto the flank. They're not going to be spotted, but they'll provide spotting, because as it stands right now, not a whole heck of a lot is seen. So this Atlanta here, Seveah, Goomba, none of them can really hit too much. Well, at least until that Chappie was spotted and Seveah put 6,000-7,000 damage into it. And oddly enough, I know my Fubuki video just the other day, I talked about this cab and how to maximize your smoke usage. And I hope seeing, another DD lay smoke in pretty much the same spot I did, but because they didn't go out and spot, ends up basically just concealing both teams. And that's the risk you run when you lay smoke as a DD, is you have to pick and choose, because if you just lay smoke because, oh, time to smoke, and then sit in it, if there's no spotting, it's useless. You need to have the enemy spotted to really allow your guys to get in there, sit in the smoke, and do damage. Fortunately for Seveah, there's a Chapayev who insists on driving side-on, gives him an easy Citadel, 15,000 damage, and that Chapayev's not going to last much longer here. Pretty confident Goomba's shells over his shoulder here, I think, are what get him. Maybe not. So with the Chapayev dead, the enemy team's actually going to lose something important for them, and that's their own spotting. Well, the Cleveland is, and okay, there's a North Carolina coming in, but you know, that DD on the other team was last spotted in the smoke and isn't doing much with it. A couple big battleships doing broadsides at each other, and you gotta hate when that happens. And hopefully Goomba here over Seveah's shoulder can get nose in against this enemy North Carolina and really deal the portion of the damage, and that's what you want to do. Because Seveah is focusing on a Cleveland who he easily eats the last 5,000 hit points on. Not sure whose torpedoes those were. They looked like sets of 3, which I don't think can be the Sims, unless they clipped the sinking Chapayev there or something of the like. But either way, they never made it here, so it doesn't matter. So Seveah's definitely making a risky move here by kind of turning around. Fortunately for him, Teddykins on the other team decided to try to shoot Goomba nose on, but that could have ended very poorly for Seveah. Just if Teddykins had paid attention to the what's broadside on. And when you're gonna die, that's what you have to do. You just gotta pick a target, whichever one's giving you the best vantage point to do a lot of damage. That's what you gotta do damage to. Unless something's on low health and you can guarantee you're gonna wipe it off the map. So far, things have gone decently on this side of the map. They've only lost 1 ship. I believe they lost 1 ship. No, I'm mistaken. They actually still have all of theirs, and they've managed to eat up 3 of the enemy ships. But on the other end of the map, Seveah and Goomba's team has been losing vessels up in B. And you gotta question what the team's doing. They managed to capture C. Doesn't appear like much of the enemy team was spotted up there yet. Somehow a bunch of them have managed to die. All right in that kind of death zone right in Bravo.
Torpedoes to port!
And right now there's not a lot for Seveah to do. Takes a shot at the Sims, but because of those torpedoes, he couldn't go charging out. And his shells end up missing that Sim, so they finally got a cap, which really does put their team in control because they have 2 of the caps. Their big ships are still alive, and, well, Seveah's out of it here for a few seconds while he dodged those torps and gets his ship back going ahead into open water, but I really do suspect things are going to go okay. While Seveah repositions, let's just hop on and watch Goomba play for a second because he's about to charge around the corner at a New Mexico. There's the first volley, solid hit, and it would be at this point that if I were Goomba, I'd start getting concerned that that New Mexico is going to go for a ram. It's pretty clear he's not because the New Mexico's actually turning away, but it's always one of those things you have to keep yourself in your mind if you're a higher tier battleship, is those low tier guys may just decide, you know what, this is a good trade. I'm going to go for it, I'm just going to ram, who cares what happens. And often it can be a good trade. But Goomba's definitely taking a beating from this enemy team as he goes charging out, and he's put himself in a bit of a risky position. He's got a Colorado on one side, New Mexico on the other, and while the North Carolina is very good against one target, it doesn't do too great against multiples because you can't focus your bow in. We're going to hop back to Seveah because he's got a Sims in close who, well, hopefully gets killed by that friendly cruiser, though Seveah does have his guns coming over. And the one fortunate thing about the Sims is it has junk torpedoes. There's 4 torpedoes. It looks like at least 2 of these are gonna hit. And while that was a lot of damage, had that been a Japanese DD or Russian one at the same, or even the Mayhem, they all do more damage than the Sims, assuming the Sims is running those long-range torpedoes. So Seveah manages to heal most of what he lost, and then does 12,576 damage to that Colorado, saving his rear guns for the Shores, who's a little wider out, so he doesn't have to angle his hull as far over to get the shots, which is a good thing because there's going to be a lot of hate coming his way. Also, fortunately for him, the Sims decided right as he was about to die, I've got a bright idea, I'm going to pop smoke. And it just ends up providing cover for Seveah and giving him a few seconds reprieve from the potential battering he could take from this pair of battleships. You can see he has slowed right up. He's got his turrets all coming around to this New Mexico, and I actually like this play. His bow is facing into the Shores in Colorado. They're not going to do a lot of damage to him. This New Mexico potentially has his flank, so getting him off the map is a very smart move. And hopefully these shells land true. They do, but they don't do quite enough damage. Friendly cruisers are going to be friendly cruisers are going to have to be the ones to finish him off. Mind you, it looks like it ends up being his rear turret. So with the big threat on his flank removed, he can now just keep his bow pointed at the thing that is going to do the most damage. And that's really how you have to drive the North Carolina, is sometimes you just put your bow into one thing, but you kill the things that are potentially flanking you. And if you can do that and keep damage only coming from directly ahead, they're going to have a very hard time doing any large sums of damage to you.
Main turret critically damaged.
Shores continues to show quite the broadside, though he's going a little bit slower than I think Seveah thought. The shells land a little far out. And I'd say the Shores is doing a decent job of waving here, but it doesn't have a lot of armor, so it's still going to take damage. Seveah's secondaries start to fire, and you can still he is focusing in on that Shores. Shores is thinly armored, not angled in, and 99% sure Seveah is going for the ram. He's going to try to kill the Shores and, well, ram the Colorado. Though it looks like the Colorado decides that a ram isn't in order, or maybe Seveah did. I'm not sure whose choice to dodge that was, but it ends up giving Seveah just more damage, and the Colorado is not in a good place here. If I had been that Colorado, I know that, like, this game's over. I don't think you're coming back from it in a Tier 7 battleship. Maybe he felt he could shoot him to death, but look at the damage a single turret from Seveah's guns does. And the Colorado's gone broadside on to try to get all of his guns firing, and Seveah didn't have to turn quite as broadside on to return the same amount of fire. Now it's once again here, I question a little bit, he's giving a lot of broadside to this Colorado. I personally would have just kept my stern in, kept myself really angled, but 15,000 hit points, you should survive at least one solid penetrating hit, which he does. Takes half his hit points, does 13,000, manages to scrape away with another half there, 3,000 hit points remaining. And the enemy team's pretty much all but done here. Both of them spotted. The Mitsuki isn't going to be able to do too much from that position. Seveah's spotting for a friendly Benson who's in the smoke, and, well, unfortunately for Seveah, this one's gonna be over. Hopefully he can get a little more damage in before that fire gets him. Shoots at Mitsuki, almost kills him, and then he gets finished off. And even though he didn't manage to survive to the end and just missed out on that Kraken, that was a great game from Seveah. 516,000 credits, 5,800 experience, Confederate, high caliber, 152,000 damage, and that was only over 2 Citadels. Most of that was just penetrating shots. He did get the 4 kills, 69 secondary hits, and I thought for the most part showed what makes the North Carolina strong. That's, put your bow in to where the damage is going to come from, and just tank it. He focused on the things that had side shots on them to make sure that, that New Mexico, for example, couldn't give him any Citadels because the New Mexico can Citadel and North Carolina side on like that. So a good choice of letting the Colorado just beat you from the front. He's not going to do much, and focus on the real threats. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. Both help keep me motivated. And while I've been sick the last couple days, I'm sorry I haven't been able to put out the usual volume of videos, but hopefully after this weekend, I'll be right back at it. And until then, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.